Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with Christine. Let's see. Today we're gonna talk. Today, I think we should talk about the homeless situation. That's another thing that I'm pretty passionate about, and I just feel like most of us can see. I just feel like we're not, I guess, utilizing our resources the best. And yesterday, I did this other live stream, and I call it the uninvited because to be honest, I was a little annoyed. Just because I'm hearing a lot of, yeah, I guess I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm one of those people that is usually pretty calm with a lot of things. I just laugh. I got that from my dad. It's not so easy to get me annoyed. At least I don't think so. At least I don't, or at least I don't. I try to understand, like right off the bat. But for this time, it was something that made me a little upset. So, I wanted to create something and respond to to those comments from those politicians. I do want to say, I want to say, I've said it multiple times before. I think that it's pretty interesting because most of the time, regular people like us, we compare ourselves to them, and they just sound so smart and so knowledgeable and so poised and so passionate or charismatic, whatever the case may be. But all those, I'm pretty sure all those are pretty rehearsed. That's why they all sound the same. um there's a lot of like very impressive things that regular people like us have done. And as I mentioned, sometimes I guess we focus so much in like, our job titles or how much money we make or where we graduated from school. But it doesn't, it's not really, I think, a fair comparison, mainly because, as I mentioned, you have to consider where people started, right? So if you're already starting at an advantage. And I'm not saying to that it's a diss to them. I really believe that you shouldn't judge people for things that it wasn't their fault, right? For good or bad, it wasn't their fault. They were born to that situation. But I guess what I want to say is that I think that's one of the reasons why people like us, regular people, don't really run for office, is that when we compare ourselves to them, um, it's kind of hard to see sometimes, I guess, to look back and see how far you've come, especially when you see again that they hold those fancy diplomas and hold those fancy titles, but it compounds. Money compounds and power compounds. So um, yeah, I think people should give themselves more credit. And and I guess another thing that I think upsets me, maybe, I'm still trying to figure out exactly why watching them like annoys me. It shouldn't. But I think one of them is that really, once you do some research, you'll realize how, I guess, ridiculous sounding. I don't mean I don't mean to be mean, I'm sorry. But ridiculous sounding their statements are in terms of their promises and in terms of their, like the interventions that they plan to do. And again, as I mentioned, you can't really blame them too much because the the people wants to hear like what is it for them, like what happens to them if something gets, if you're able to do what you said that you will do. They want to see the product, like, oh, you're gonna lower my taxes or you're gonna lower gas and all these things. But the reality is that that promise is pretty difficult to make because for even for a place that I work at, both places, even when like a project is a sure win, you still have the issue of like timing, the issue of approval, the issue of there's consideration from a lot of different people. There's a lot of them that needs to happen. It's never just you. I guess that's the thing. It's never just you. This reminded me when I was creating my candidate statement, which I guess came out. So if you guys saw your mail, my name is there, which is I guess interesting. I haven't seen mine. I haven't received my package, but I remember my husband was telling me, "Hey, my love, it's due the following day." And so we have to submit this candidate statement. And then so we keep thinking of the candidate statement and what we're going to put because we don't want to make it so long and things like that. And I was talking to a friend in how it should be constructed. And the friend, as most people have said, told me that, hey, you need to say something specific. Like, hey, I'm going to lower your taxes by X%, which is, I guess it's a pretty standard thought when it comes to any type of project. You have to have a goal, or you have to have like a solution that you're trying to propose. The problem though with that is that anyone in like real leadership experience will tell you that first, I mean, even in nursing, this is the thing. First, you have to assess. It's really pretty. It won't be accurate if you are just looking at a small data and then just making a decision. As management, your job is to look at all available data as much as you can, and then to make like an assessment and provide a solution from there. It's going to be very hard to just kind of pull it out of the bag. But he said, well, you're going to have to make up something. And I told him that's not really the case, because as a leader, you know that even at your very, very, very best, and I understand this is, I guess, in the core of my leadership style. My belief, I guess I should own the thought. My belief is that even in your very best as management, you can never be everyone. So for a project to happen, the leader probably has, and its very best, probably have about 40% say in the whole conclusion of the project. It's pretty heavy. I think one single person that could have that many points in terms of the success. But you also have, of course, the people that would implement it. You have resources. You have all these other areas, because it doesn't matter how good of a leader you are if your people that's supposed to execute are like just completely against you. But I guess if they're against you, all of them, then maybe you're not that good of a leader. And then it's not going to happen. So to promise something with absolute certainty will be done when your power only reaches up to 40%. I guess for me, at least in my practical mind, in my experiences, I guess that's what kind of makes it hesitant to make that super, super strong point. I don't want to say this is my fourth, coffee with Christine. So I guess I'm not as rushed anymore, but we'll see. But let's go back and talk about like the homeless population. And I think this one affects me a lot, because I know that currently a lot of people are coming out and being upset about this particular issue, mainly because we are talking about how much we spent And I think that's when money, the interesting part about money is that it's a currency that everyone understands. When you talk about time, it's not the same. Some people, even now, right, research about how much time a kid should be in the computer. It's not something that we can all agree with. But when it comes to money, it's something that we deal with every single day. So I think people are more like aware, I guess. How is it now? How much is it? Let's see. I don't want to misspeak. So I actually have patients that are homeless. And so, this is a population that I'm very familiar with. So I've been working with them for a while. And even outside of a professional situation, we volunteered a lot. My friends and my family volunteered a lot for this group. Mhm. I'm just looking at the price, like the money that we've spent for our homeless population. And did you guys see? I don't know if you saw, but there are additional bills that they're going to be putting in ballot, an additional ask to add more money for this group. And I just keep repeating myself, but I'll just say it. I think California is actually very, very generous compared to pretty much everywhere else. And I kind of feel bad when some people try to try to talk negatively to those that are trying to stop a little bit of the spending, saying that they're not very kind or they don't care about their fellow human beings. Because I don't think that's the case. I think what it is that we all know, like, regardless of party, everyone can sense it, everyone can feel it, that there's really a lot of mismanagement. It could be fraud. It could be, just they're creating it as a business. Whatever the statement is, all we know, all we agree about is that this money is not going to where it's supposed to be. Definitely, I think there are good intentions, but this is when, the good intentions, unfortunately, is not good enough. Like, that needs to be paired by actual action. So for our homeless situations, there's a lot of data that's showing correlation between the increase in the number of homeless people, and then also, um, when we closed down all the mental facilities in California. The interesting part is I actually had like someone in this population, and they don't perceive themselves as someone who is homeless. But in our definition, they are. So maybe that's something else that we need to kind of look into. Like, how is homelessness defined? Um, just because, but maybe it's already there. I probably should look. And then in addition to that, she said that she thinks that there's so many people that suffers from mental condition, and that we do need like a better way to handle them. I do want to say also that someone close to me was homeless for a few years, and they said that um, the use of drugs and mental health, they're kind of bleeding over. So it's like a chicken and the egg kind of thing, because sometimes some parts, or I shouldn't say sometimes, but most of the time, the streets are not safe. So you need to be able to stay awake or sleep even though it's super cold and you're scared. So that's something that they utilize for that purpose. But as good nurses and good management knows, it starts with assessment. Like, we really can't. One of the biggest mistake we have, I think, is to just grouping all these people together. It's like a catch-all phrase, but it's really not, because we cannot possibly have like an effective intervention if the reason for being homeless is not identified and it's not properly categorized, because that's different. We do have, and I heard of this from multiple people from their own story, sharing it with me, that they have a lot of family members just kind of walking around the streets because they suffer from a mental health condition. And it's really hard to house them because they get combative and they get aggressive, and they need medical professionals for it. But unfortunately, with the changes in the law in California, you can't just like send them over. So I think we need to revisit that law. So that's one. We need to revisit that law and see the participation of mental health professionals in doing a quick assessment for these people, and then also for us to be able to provide support for them that is safe, instead of just thinking it's either them or like our family, and that we have to kind of release them in the streets, because that's really not a good way to do this. I think that it's going to be pretty sad if when we do things like that. So now a bunch of these coworkers and friends, when you ask them, so where are they now? Where's your family member? Where's your brother? Where's your sister? They don't know. They just assume that they're wandering around, just hoping and praying that they'll be okay. But that's sad. We need to take care of this group, and so we need a better process to be able to create this support system, this channel for the family members and the loved ones of people suffering from mental health issues, for a quick assessment and support. I do want to say also that we need facilities, because even though, especially recently, right, with the height of the pandemic, they said we poured a lot more money in mental health. But from what I can see, at least from a local level, the support that they're talking about are like outpatient and therapy and stuff, which is great. Don't get me wrong. We do have people like that. But what I'm trying to say is that there's a bigger population group that has a lot of issues, and that they're not being addressed. We're just kind of letting them kind of do their thing, and then they're just jumping around either in the streets or in jail. And that's kind of not cool for everyone. It's not cool for the people, for the neighborhood where they camp. It's not good for our servicemen, for our policemen, and for all these movements. But there has to be a more systematic approach to things. I do want to say, I guess they created a new group for it's like a homeless initiative of sorts. But even that, it's like I was looking at the directory. Even that is kind of I don't know how they I don't know how they pick them. No offense, but I looked because I think it's a good idea. I think having a committee that can kind of oversee like overall like efforts and money that we're doing for this issue, it's a good idea to have that. But my thought is that we really need representation from everyone. We need representation from the business owners that are affected. We need representation. When I'm talking about representation within that team, like you need to have a committee that can speak to all the different factors that are affecting this community, and how it affects them and how it affects the community back. So you need business owners, you need nurses within that team, you need cops, and it's good because all these people are providing support, and also it's creating a burden, right, in terms of doing things intervention wise that will not really have a long lasting effect. Whenever you do some type of intervention, the hope is that that would hopefully push them on a positive end. It's not really an intervention. It's barely an intervention. It's more like a band-aid if you're just trying to like resolve a quick issue. The goal should always be for them to get better, for them to get like an actual life and go back to the society, give them their pride back, and that and then give them their family back, and support them that way. So that's kind of what I want to do for that, like have that group that would be able to participate and have the expertise and experiences and data from their own, from their own specialty to provide to each other. So we'll know exactly how to attack this problem from um, multi-departmental ways. I think that's the only way to do it. But it upsets me. I get upset more often than I realize when I talk about the homeless situation, because really it's like just throwing money at the problem, and then they just buy food, which is good. Food is a basic human need, so everyone needs to be fed, right? um but the problem though is that that's not good enough. If you're gonna and if you're gonna keep feeding them, you have to support the underlying issue also. You can't. It's like being a parent and your kid is having a tantrum because he wants a toy. It's just giving a toy every single time. You don't teach anything else. You don't support the emotion properly, or like any how to process like a rejection and whatnot. So that's kind of, I think, the sad part when we're talking about the homeless population, because it's really not just about the money. The money is just the tool. It's like it's not enough. Like that comes with education. It comes with more support, social support, preferably like reuniting with family, like rehab, and like mental health support and all that. So we need to again be a little bit more granular in terms of the cost of homelessness, because there are some homeless people that prefers it because there's freedom. There's freedom in living in the streets with no rules. So we have to assess all the reasons of homelessness and be deliberate and collaborative when it comes to our approach when helping them, instead of like everyone doing their own thing. And then we also need a committee that is created with different members from different disciplines to be able to kind of assess the efforts that we're doing and the money that we're spending to make sure that we are doing right by this population. But anyways, thank you for listening. That's yeah, I'll try to be we might talk about the homeless some more, just because it's so, I guess it's such a big issue currently. But the good thing is, the last good, we should end this with gratitude. But the last good thing is that it's election time. So everyone is trying to, the politicians that's currently in power are all trying their best to say that they're doing something. So at least there's movement. It's like doing a review. But anywho, thank you for spending time with me, and have a beautiful day, everyone. And I'll see you all tomorrow if you can jump in 6:30 to 7. Have a good day. I'll see you then. Bye.